And the great evil of American slavery wasn't involuntary servitude. It was this myth that black people aren't as good as white people, this myth of racial hierarchy, of white supremacy. And we never really dealt with that.
Your life is still meaningful, and I'm gonna do everything possible to keep them from taking it. You don't know what you're into down here in Alabama when you're guilty from the moment you're born.
Do you believe that the criminal justice system works to preserve white supremacy?
I absolutely believe that it has been part of the way in which we have failed to overcome white supremacy. And it has been the repository of a lot of that bigotry and bias.
One of the things that Bryan says that really kind of stuck with me, he says a lot of things that I kind of take to heart. But one thing is that we don't put crimes in jail, we put people in jail or in prison. And I think the other side of that coin is that the legal system isn't making things happen. People are making these decisions about other people.
I think the entire system preserves white supremacy to a degree. I think that the entire power structure in America works very hard to keep that entrenched. That's manifested in the criminal justice system just by virtue of the paucity of real representation for the accused in the community of people of color.
We are in the larger space still dealing with the legacy of slavery. There's a presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to black and brown people that is a consequence of our failure to talk honestly about slavery and lynching and segregation. There is smog in the air created by the pollution of that bigotry. And so there's almost no aspect of American life that isn't affected by our failure to deal with this history.
Our system is designed to make anybody rich and guilty come off as innocent, and then if you're poor and innocent, you come off as guilty. It's how the system has been created, and it's still going on today in that fashion. We have programs like When They See Us that highlights, an unfortunate occurrence with 5 young men that were wrongfully accused. We have Khalif Browder, a young man accused of stealing a backpack, and he sits in grown man jail for 3 years without seeing a court date. But then you could have somebody driving drunk and kill a family of 4, and he gets hit with affluenza because he was too rich to know that he was doing wrong. So what kind of justice and what kind of system is that really?
And the great evil of American slavery wasn't involuntary servitude. It was this myth that black people aren't as good as white people, this myth of racial hierarchy, of white supremacy. And we never really dealt with that. The 13th Amendment talks about ending involuntary servitude, but it doesn't say anything about that narrative of racial difference, that ideology of white supremacy, which is why I've argued slavery doesn't end in 1865, it evolves. It's that century of lynching and terrorism, and then it becomes, racial apartheid and Jim Crow segregation, and now it has become over-incarceration and excessive punishment. So yes, I think it is very much at the heart of these problems that we have not yet addressed.